Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and a very warm welcome. So, today we're going to dive into a really powerful story from the Quran, specifically from Surah Al Kahf. It's the story of a great leader named Dhul-Qarnayn, a community in serious trouble, and the incredible barrier they built together. But this is way more than just some ancient story about engineering. It's a timeless lesson on leadership, on technology, and ultimately on faith.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Our story kicks off with a community that's living in constant fear. They're facing this terrifying, relentless threat, something that is just tearing their world apart, and they're absolutely desperate for a way out. So they make their plea to this powerful and just ruler who happens to be traveling through their lands, Dhul-Qarnayn. And what's really interesting is how specific they are. They don't just say, hey, we're in trouble. No, they name their problem. The destructive forces of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, that's Gog and Magog, who are just causing chaos and corruption everywhere. Now, their proposal is, well, it's incredibly practical, right? This isn't just a cry for help. It's basically a business deal. They offer to pay him to gather their wealth for him if he'll use his power and his knowledge to build them a massive wall, a defensive barrier to protect them for good. But it's Dhul-Qarnayn's response that really turns this whole thing on its head. This is what changes it from a simple contract into a deep lesson on what it means to be a true leader. And just look at the difference here. It's night and day. It shows you everything about his character. He politely turns down their money. He says, that in which my Lord has established me is better. So instead of taking their wealth, he asks for their help, their physical strength. He transforms their simple offer into a community project, a partnership. So here's the key takeaway about his leadership. It's this idea that his power isn't really his own. It's a responsibility, a trust, an amana from God. And it's meant to be used for the good of the people, not to make himself richer. He sees his authority not as a personal prize, but as a tool for public service. All right, so with the deal struck, it's time to roll up their sleeves and get to work. And this is where the Quran gives us this amazing, vivid picture of an incredible engineering project getting underway. The process is laid out almost like a movie scene. First, he says, bring me blocks of iron. Then they stack them up, filling the whole gap between two mountains. Next, he tells them to light the fires and pump the bellows, to heat the entire structure until it's glowing red hot, just like a fire itself. And then, for the final touch, he says, bring me molten copper to pour over it, sealing everything into one solid, unbreakable mass. So what they end up with is not just some brick wall, no way. This was a sophisticated, high-tech piece of engineering for its time, a fusion of iron and copper, designed with one goal in mind, to be too high to climb over and way too strong to break through. And the Quran tells us flat out, it worked. The project was a massive success. The forces of Gog and Magog were stopped in their tracks. The community, they finally got the security and peace they've been praying for, and they achieved it through their own hard work, guided by a truly just leader. But hold on, just when you think, okay, great story about human ingenuity, the whole thing takes this fascinating turn. Dhul-Qarnayn looks at this incredible achievement and gives a perspective that shifts our focus from the physical to the spiritual. I mean, was a threat like that contained behind this massive wall? You'd think, problem solved, story over. But Dhul-Qarnayn immediately shows them, and us, that this is not the final chapter, not even close. And his reaction here is just, wow, it's so powerful. He takes zero credit. He doesn't say, look what we built. Instead, he says, this is a mercy from my Lord. He frames this incredible achievement as a temporary gift from God, and right away he points at its destiny. When God's final promise comes to pass, this mighty wall will be crushed into dust. And this right here is such a critical lesson. The story absolutely celebrates what we humans can do, using our skills and technology to solve huge problems. But it puts all of that within this bigger picture of humility. It's saying, go ahead, build your amazing solutions, but never ever forget that nothing we build lasts forever. And that humility leads us straight into the final part of the story, where things zoom out from this one community's problem to the ultimate destiny of all of humanity. The very next verse, boom, it connects the breaking of this massive wall to the day of judgment. It's this powerful, powerful reminder that all of our worldly structures, all our borders, all of our clever fixes, they'll all be swept away when every single person is gathered for that final accounting. So when you step back and look at it, this short story is just packed with wisdom, isn't it?
It gives us this amazing model for responsible leadership that isn't about getting rich. It shows us how to be practical, but also merciful. It encourages using technology for justice. And most of all, it reminds us that everything we do here is ultimately measured against our accountability to God.
And that leaves us with this final question to really think about. You know, in our world today, we put so much faith in our own technology to solve everything. This ancient story is this beautiful, grounding reminder. It encourages us to build, to create, to solve problems with every skill we have, but to always do it with the deep humility of knowing that even our greatest achievements are just temporary mercies in a much, much bigger story.